Good morning. Welcome to Norma Talks this week. This week, I'm going to talk about projection. Now, I have to tell you, when I got up this morning, I wasn't really sure, excuse me again, what I was going to talk about. So I went to my dear tarot cards and said, show me what to talk about today. And I had a symbol that came up that talks about projection. And then I began to realize that many of the thoughts I've had this last week have had a lot to do about creating. I've been listening to certain YouTubes and things like that. And some of the things people say I don't always agree with from what I have experienced or come to understand. So I thought, yes, this is perfect. Let's talk about projection. So the first question is, what are you projecting? Now remember, this is all my thoughts, my awarenesses over the years. What you are projecting are your thoughts. Your thoughts are coming up, mulling around in your head maybe, or just something that you all of a sudden had a thought and you glom onto it and you think it and think it and think it and you go over that thought. And in going over that thought, what begins to happen is that it creates a vibration. That vibration then has begun to projection out. Now, the key will be, is that projection a goal or is it just a muddled thought, or what exactly is that? So it becomes very clear at some point if it's a muddling thought and you keep giving that energy, because from the thought then comes the energy that you put behind the thought. And when you put it behind the thought, what ends up happening then is that has energy, and therefore it goes out into, you might say, a world. And then the world, wherever you want to call that, whether you want to call it God, universal energy, doesn't matter the name, the energy responds. And so that becomes kind of a co-creation of your world. Now, I get lazy. And so consequently, sometimes I'm not really making very clear thought patterning of what I want. And it's something that I've had to deal with off and on in my life. So it's a good opportunity for me to relook at this today. Now, when you have a thought, you want to say, is this thought a goal or not? Is this just a thought that's floating through that you don't want to give any energy to, because we get lots of those, often from the collective consciousness, which I've talked about several times. The collective consciousness has all the different thoughts, and very often we will gravitate to a specific kind of thinking. And that's why we always talk birds of a feather flock together, because when you have people of like-mindedness, you've even got a bigger energy. People who congregate in groups, churches. I belong to a metaphysical association that hasn't been able to meet now for, well, I haven't met for over a year because I went for a holiday nearly this time last year, sorry. And so when you have a group of like-minded people, those thoughts really grow in intent. So first, have you made it a goal? And that means you've made a decision. You might think, well, what does it mean in making a decision? When you make a decision, you've given it a certain amount of energy. It may not mean that you act on it, but you have decided that, yes, I'm going to do this. When you're going to make a trip, say, you will think about the trip, you'll figure out the trip, but then one day you'll make a decision, yes, I'm going to do it. Now you will then make the commitment to that trip when you order or book your flight, or you decide you're going to your car, you take your car in to get fixed up, make sure, like I did last summer, to make sure my car would take me to 2 provinces across and back again with no issues, which it did wonderfully well. And so you make the decision, and then excuse me, if you're talking about creating something for you that you want in your life that you have no idea how it's going to show up, you must have it. And I can't see, I'm putting down in my hand on my solar plexus, and I'm going to cough again. I'm sorry. I haven't coughed all morning, so I don't know what this is about. Coughing up my awarenesses or something, I guess. So you take it and you put it in a knowing place. You must know that it's real. You may not know when it's going to show up, but you must know that it will be. Now, this is a part that I find that a lot of people who teach goal setting don't talk about. But I found very early when I was working on how all this worked was when I had it in a knowing place, I relaxed and I knew that it would show up. And that brings us to the point of timing. You know, the sayings, all in good time, right timing, God's time, or whatever. And it's really about allowing, because when you know it will show up, you allow the universe to bring it to you. Now, I have to talk about one more thing in here that's important. Expectation. You know, sometimes we don't deal with what's really reality. And in creating and projecting, very often, what we're projecting, it doesn't feel like it could be real. So we have an expectation. And this is why I'm jumping a bit and I apologize. This is why it's very important to have it in a knowing place, to know, yes, this is going to happen. And we don't know when it's going to happen, maybe tomorrow, maybe 5 years, but it'll happen. So when we have it in a knowing place, we don't have an expectation. We have a knowing. But if we have it in an expectation place, we're up here somewhere. I'm going to go really up because we have this expectation. Do you know how many people over the years I've seen that have come in to see me sad, upset, depressed, because they had an expectation that ended up in reality. In fact, the opposite often. And that's because an expectation up here will crash into reality, and then we have to deal with that. And what I find consistently when that is true, that the person's imagination has got in there, and imagination is great when you're creating and you're wanting to figure it out. You can imagine, but then there are other steps. You don't leave it in the expectation. When you're in an expectation and you're expecting something, but you have no awareness of really any of the energy, of the element, of anything else, and it crashes down into reality, and it's, oh my goodness, you know, this doesn't work. So we get depressed, we get unsure, and we have to spend time collecting ourselves one more time to begin to recreate. So let's take a look at what we're doing. First of all, we contemplate or think or figure out what it is we want. Or what we want to do, or what we would like to see, or what we want to create. Sometimes we have big projections for the world, and other times it's just for us to create something we want. Now, when you've got that kind of clear in your mind of the projections, that's when you need to make a decision that it's a goal. I'm making this a goal. And there's other ways I teach about goal setting as to what is it you need to do first. I call it the first step principle, written up in my little So You Want to Be Happy book. So it's like, anyway, it's like knowing the steps, like what step. You don't go into third step. You got to go one by one, make the steps that you have to do. So in other words, you're doing some action. It's interesting, I don't have action down here in my notes because I wasn't really talking about goals. I was talking about projection. So it's okay. That's how it works, is that if there's something that you can do, then you do those actions. Like if you're booking a flight, or if you're making plans on your journey. Like when I was traveling 2 provinces away, I'm going to travel to this town, spend the night. I'm going to travel to that town, spend a few days with a friend of mine, then I'm going to travel to the next town, and then I'm going to head home this way. And so I had it all figured out, and I knew that it would all unfold. And it's that knowing, I knew it would all unfold the way I wanted. And it really did unfold. In fact, it was even better than what I had anticipated, because I didn't have any anticipation. I didn't have an expectation except for what I was going to what I had decided I was going to do. And I did every one of those. I managed to see all of that, what I wanted to see. I put it in the knowing place. I knew the day I was going to leave. I knew the day I was going to arrive, all those kind of things. So timing. Let's talk about timing for a moment. We are an impatient species. I think some people are probably born with more patience than others. But we make a decision, we want it tomorrow. And that is a lot to do with how we kind of live in our Western society. It's very easy to go get what you want. I want to have this, you go get it. And so we begin to feel that when we want to create something that is not right at our fingertips, that it should be there now. And we get frustrated when it doesn't. This is where you need to watch for your expectation. When are you looking at the reality? In other words, think of a gardener. What the gardener has to do is prepare the soil. That's what you were doing when you were figuring around, trying to figure out what you really want. Does this fit? Is this going to work? Blah, blah, blah. What you do you kind of do in your mind. And then when you decide it, as a gardener, what you would do then is you would now prepare the soil for the planting. Put your seeds in, put your plants in if you're having plants already that have been seeded and ready to replant. The decision is made. The plants are in place. But now you have to wait. Plants don't just grow overnight. Plants don't just produce fruit or vegetables or whatever it is you're going to produce overnight, especially if it's a tree, if it's a tree that's going to give you fruit. It takes time. Now, I have a saying, and I learned it very early in my world, in my career, which was, time is my friend. I have lots of it. Now, on this lifeline, timing is becoming a little shorter, perhaps, but I still know that time is my friend, and that I can, if I have made the decision, if I know that whatever I choose and want is there, it will occur in its timing. And I have always found that the universal timing for when things have showed up in my life, whether I've accepted them or rejected them, because I have done that occasionally, has always been at the absolute perfect time. So many times I thought I was ready for what I was wanting. Absolutely ready. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to, old saying, rock and roll. And then I wait, and then it wouldn't show up right away. But when it did, whatever it was I was wanting to have come in my life, all of a sudden I was ready. Now, sometimes those things took years to come in, and very often, I have to admit, I've had things come into my life that I didn't project at all. I don't live a planned life where I'm planning everything out. That's too controlling. Things fell in my lap, you might say, but those things that fell in my lap maybe were not part of my plan, but they gave me an opportunity to say yes to something more, to something bigger, to something, well, that was much bigger, that what ended up happening with my life than I ever thought possible. And that's another element of saying yes or no. I have said no to some things because I ran into fear. I ran into uncertainty. I ran into, I'm not sure that I want to do that, but I have to go do that, and I'm really not sure about that. And so I haven't always said yes. And so I had to accept, as I began to look back over my life from a different perspective, that there were times when I said no to things that I didn't go and make the decision to go ahead, to make the decision to see how it would work, because it never went into a knowing place. I cannot enforce the importance of knowing. When you know something is going to be, it will be. But most of us don't get there. We don't get to that knowing place. We don't get to a sense of trusting that timing will work. See, I really see that energy out there that responds to us is like a huge big computer. I find a lot of people think, oh, well, it's because I'm a good person or I'm a good that person, then I will win out. And very often that's not the truth. Have you got the person that has the most direct energy, the most awareness, will have the response. The more you can join together in a common goal, that force will have a result. But if you have a person in that part of that result that has a little bit of uncertainty, a little bit of doubt, oh man, that doubt's going to just wipe things out. But it's interesting. What are we projecting? What are we looking at? What are we wanting to create? What are we deciding? We make the small decisions every day. What am I going to wear today? What am I going to, for us as women, what jewelry am I going to put on? Am I going to go and to this appointment? Am I going to make this appointment? Am I going to go here? Little decisions. Those are just day-to-day things. But when you want to really create something that brings you an awareness, you will decide, yes, I want this. And it comes into that knowing place. And you're not in the expectation. You're not in, or if you are, you're not in the knowing place. I'll tell you that. And because if you're in expectation, it will crash. You will feel upset. You will feel everything because it's not being realized. But when you're in that knowing place, you will know the right timing, it will be there. Because I found that happened over and over again in my life. My issue was I didn't ask enough. I didn't project enough. I didn't decide enough. I just did what was there, and miracles occurred around me, I must admit, but still could have been much more. I want you to have the best. I want you to be able to create a life where you're happy, where you can feel at one with all that there is, that you know that this universal energy is there for you, but you've got to play your part. You can't just sit down and say, well, I prayed for this, or I thought that, or I did that. You've got to play your part by co-creating, by allowing that energy an ability to be able to bring to you, because you know without a doubt that this is what you want. No doubt, no fear, no resistance, just patience. And like the gardener, your plant will grow and it will give you what it is that you want. I thank you for watching today. I thank you for your comments. I finally got to the comments on Sunday. I finally figured out how to do the reply to the comments. So usually on Sunday, after a Sunday thought, I take some time and go in and do the comments. I thank you for this new subscribers, and just press the subscribe button if you do enjoy my talks. So just know every Wednesday I do a talk on a topic. And you can always contact me through the website, normacowie.com, and let me know what topic you would like me to talk about. I've got lots of topics. And then I also want to thank you for the likes and for the shares and things like that. And remember, when you're on the website, sign up for my monthly newsletter, which lets you know my specials and other things that are happening. I really wish you well. I really wish you to go out and create a happy, joyful life, full of experience that add to you, to know that you are part and full of the energy of life and love. So God bless and enjoy, and I will see you, well, I'll see you on Sunday, but I'll see you next Wednesday. Bye now.